Thank you, Graham. Tonight, the Adelaide TV station scandal, run for years by a convicted fraud, and now caught submitting false information to the authorities. A shambles exposed. Also tonight, boot camp for blokes. The course trying to teach men a few manners so women won't cringe in public. Those stories and more coming up tonight after the news. Ace TV is Adelaide's community access broadcaster and shot to prominence recently after Channel 7 gave it access to the Ashes coverage. But when it comes to access to information about who's running the show at Ace and how, well, disgruntled producers and volunteers say it's been almost impossible to get an answer. There is now a major dispute about the management or mismanagement of Ace TV. And as Frank Pangello reports, questions are also being asked about the convicted fraud who ran the station for years.
You can't put this on television because it's too bloody long, the story.
No, the story is quite simple.
It's not simple.
This is a farce.
Well, to put it bluntly, I think the association is a sham.
Because it takes more than a bloody television camera to explain the workings of Ace TV.
No, you're not watching some low-budget soapy. Actually, it's reality TV.
Can you come down?
Are you chairman of the board?
Can you move down the stairs?
Are you chairman of the board, and who elected you?
Can you turn the camera off? Thank you.
More to the point, what you see here is what you tend to get when you ask a few hard questions of the management of Ace TV, Adelaide's supposedly community access broadcaster.
Okay. So you've been going for 7 years.
We have, yeah.
All right. How many AGMs have you had in that period of time? How many democratically elected board members have you had?
Well, nobody ever complained.
Well, that's where the TV parts company with the reality.
What I've seen over the past few years that I've been involved is a deterioration of the place.
This is a meeting of disgruntled producers and volunteers who've withdrawn their services from Ace to start up a rival association.
Sure, if I go around the table to the program providers, what each one of us pays, when they find out what I pay and what he pays and what you pay, it's like, why am I paying that rate? I mean, there are people who get programs to air for nothing.
The plotting to get Ace's free narrowcast UHF licence, claiming there's been no accountability for years and that it hasn't been run the way the law says it should, or for that matter, even by its own hard-to-find constitution.
It's a community television access station, but unfortunately the community do not have access to it unless they pay for it.
For 3 years, Peter Angelos paid Ace for airtime to broadcast his Greek language program, and for a short time last year was an Ace board member, until he too began asking pertinent questions.
They were just routine questions. I mean, questions like, could I have copies of the minutes of the last number of board meetings over the last few years? Could I have a copy of the financial statements? Now, all these were denied.
There is a constitution in place, and without question it's not being adhered to. It's normally a board...
Brian Dutton's another program provider who's pulled the pin, amazed and concerned at the way some people have been running the place as if it was their own private concern.
People have been denied membership. Now, it's quite simple. Members elect boards. Members vote people on and off boards. Members are therefore, if you haven't got members and you haven't got a board and you're in control, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work out who's pulling the strings.
I'm very pleased to welcome to the program and to introduce to you Rita Freeman, the president of Ace TV. Rita,
which brings us to the woman who's played a pivotal role in Ace's short but rather stormy and controversial history.
And we can reflect the local community's views more quickly and react more quickly than the networks can.
Here's Rita Freeman being interviewed on Ace by Jay Walton in March 1998.
It's been a hard road, and everybody who works at Ace is a volunteer. We don't have any paid staff.
Rita's been there from the beginning and has held various positions of authority from public officer through to general manager and CEO, often self-appointed if you believe her critics.
The words that she said to me, that channel is her life. And when I questioned that the ownership of the licence is the association's, her reply was, it is my channel. my licence.
So effectively, she's taken control of the community.
Exactly, yeah.
Jim Rossiter is a lawyer and accountant and former ACE volunteer who complained 3 years ago to several authorities about the virtuoso performance of Mrs Freeman.
When I attended, I was told that Rita Freeman was the owner. And
The owner?
The owner. And she owned the licence, she owned everything. And I said, this is nonsense. As an incorporated body, you cannot have an owner of an incorporated association.
Perhaps this impression may stem from Mrs Freeman's claims that ACE owes her $200,000. Money, she says, she lent the station over several years to keep it on air. Problem is, nobody seems to be able to locate paperwork to show how the money was used.
It's my money and Rita Freeman's money. My money and Rita Freeman's money.
Rita Freeman has been running
Yeah.
ACE Television.
Yeah.
You told me that yourself. Is she owed money?
Well,
Has she put money in?
I have not seen any evidence of it.
Where's the AGMs? Where are the audited reports?
Now, I
And
think
this is Dominic Menorchio, ACE's melodramatic public officer, claiming he too is owed several $1,000s.
explain what happens to the AGM and stuff like
Well,
that.
where is it? Where are all the records? Where are all the minutes? People
Well,
are
you want them...
These people here
Yeah.
have been denied
Now,
membership.
Come on. There's people here. These people here. Now, me and Joe, Peter.
Now all this may sound like petty politics, typical of volunteer associations, except that Rita Freeman had something to hide.
Who told you that? Oh, because I didn't know.
Told me what?
That she's a convicted. Yeah.
That's right.
In 1996, Freeman was convicted and heavily fined on 43 counts of false pretences against work cover. Similar charges against her husband Bob were quashed on appeal. By law, she was disqualified from holding any management position for 5 years with any association.
From the date of her conviction, she should have never been involved for at least 5 years, following on from the convictions. I think her behaviour now and her fears about an election proves that she herself is pretty aware that she shouldn't be involved.
Yet despite the absence of other records, there's plenty to prove she was the one in charge.
She was appointed by the board as a manager of ACE TV.
Who was on the
Tabish.
board?
Eh?
Who was on the board? Who was on the board? Her daughter?
Yeah.
Her husband?
Me?
Her husband?
Yeah.
Well, it's all nepotism, isn't it?
But it's their money. Hey, it's their money.
They shouldn't have been letting Mum on the board for at least 5 years. So there's at least 3 people who've got very serious questions to answer because of their own nepotism.
The dynasty continues. Sue Pavin has been promoted to chairman, presiding over a board of just 2. The other being Mr Menorchio.
You get fictitious board members mentioned to you.
Fictitious.
Well, one guy says that she says she's on the board and the guy says I'm not on the board.
He's referring to this document submitted to Consumer Affairs in May, listing 5 board members. Trouble is, 2 tell us they don't know anything about it.
It's been a circus.
Yeah, it is. And
Okay.
that's what we... Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It
is a circus.
Now ACE find themselves on a very sticky wicket at a time when they've got their biggest audience, courtesy of Channel 7's gesture to bring live cricket to Adelaide when no one else would.
The publicity that we got from that, I think it's enormous, and thanks to Channel 7 and management of Channel 7.
ACE is in the spotlight of 3 separate investigations: SA Police, Consumer and Business Affairs, and the Australian Broadcasting Authority.
I think somebody's going to make them come clean.
Sue Pavin tells us they've now put their house in order. It still leaves their board short by 4. But stay tuned, if you can, for the next episode of this comedy of errors.
Because it takes a long time to explain to you, Frank, and the people out there, because don't believe any bloody thing you see or hear.
Bizarre story. Well, federal workplace